2 weeks ago, the city's business community was granted a rare audience with Canberra's movers and shakers, including the Prime Minister. Far from a money-grabbing exercise, it was designed to change the nation's perception of the city in the wake of BHP's departure from steelmaking.
It's an important thing to stress that regional unity and the fact that we're getting on doing things, and there's more to Newcastle and the Hunter region than BHP.
Today's debriefing in Newcastle heard that the mission was a success, with particular interest from Canberra in the Hunter Medical Research Foundation and Newcastle Airport.
I think they were impressed by a united Hunter front, the two sides of the political parties coming together. I think only the Hunter could have done that, no other region has done it.
So successful was the Canberra visit, the lobby group is now considering a similar assault on state parliament.
We've learned some valuable lessons out of this. Certainly we've been able to promote a message of regional unity in the national capital, and there's no reason why we couldn't do exactly the same thing in Macquarie Street.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Reducing the surgery waiting list was identified as a major priority, and after an intense 12 months, that goal has been achieved. Doctors performed 36,118 operations, marking a 5.5% increase on the previous year. CEO of Hunter Health, Catherine McGrath, says it's all thanks to extra state government funding, flexible bed management practices, and the tireless team effort of staff.
The logistics of surgeons changing the way they practice, staff agreeing to work extra time, managers managing those resources so that they were making sure there were no gaps in any of our theatre times. It's a very big planning exercise.
The results came out at last night's AGM. Among the other major achievements, according to the Health Service, is the success of the Toronto Polyclinic in providing a high standard of local community health care and the balanced budget. But Ms McGrath says it's not all pats on the back, with plenty of room for improvement in relation to patient and staff safety.
We should not be injuring one staff member a day, which is what we're doing at the moment, well over that. So concentrating on getting that down to no injuries in the workplace.
Reducing the workers' compensation insurance premiums will free up funds to be used for other health services, including reinstating the team midwifery service. Amanda Bolger, NBN News. For almost 3 decades, Danilo's at Hamilton served up Novocastrians the delicacies of fine dining. So it was no surprise when many of the region's prominent restaurateurs crammed into the premises today, hoping to take away a piece of the grand surrounds. Frenzied bidding saw cafe owners snap up kitchen equipment and crockery. The restaurant's source of music was also a popular item, this Yamaha Baby Grand selling for $7,000. But it's not all bad news for Hamilton's hospitality industry. Just across the road, the Kent Hotel has just been selected as one of 6 state finalists in the Australian Hotels Association Awards in the categories of Best Bar Presentation and Best Bistro.
Something we do work very hard for. We have a very high standard and we try and keep consistency, and I think it is an honour and as I said, something we work hard for in the hospitality industry.
Obviously have a high quality of food and high quality of service in this area, and that's what they're recognising with us and the whole street.
The winners will be announced on November 15. Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
With BHP Steel making a memory, the port is Newcastle's greatest economic asset. But Ian Pedersen from the Hunter Business Chamber believes the supporting transport infrastructure isn't good enough. Say you were giving it a report card, how would it read?
I'd say it'd read pretty average, probably B- or C level at the stage. What we have to do is to improve the quality of the infrastructure and improve the speed at which the transport that travels on it can move.
Speaking at the Property Council of Australia's lunch today, he says the rail route from Newcastle to Sydney must be made straighter. He'd like to see a tunnel through the Murrurundi Ranges to open the port up to northwestern New South Wales and a Hexham to Fassifern rail link. While private enterprise has its part to play in such projects, he says Bob Carr's government should foot some of the bill.
And we could in fact get the government, who has committed spending to the upgrade of the rail from Sydney to Newcastle, to spend it at the Sydney end second, spend it at Newcastle first, so we can get the Wyong coal and we can get a lot of these things happening at this end of rather than at the Sydney end.
When Robbie O'Davis broke his foot going for a run this morning, it wasn't the only bad news in store for him.
Yeah, well, we have received 90% of our contract.
The Knights' chief executive Ian Burnett insists the players will get all their money.
Let's be quite clear, the players will be paid in full. At this stage we just have a shortfall because of the Optus grant that hasn't been paid, and we're making alternative arrangements to gain funding.
And he says it shouldn't be necessary for him to give up any of the hefty pay rise he reportedly received last week.
That's a situation that the board handled prior to this situation indeed, and it's over a longer period of time, but I'm sure that all of us will be looking at the situation if we're unable to make up the shortfall in the short term.
As Robbie underwent a CT CAT scan to show the extent of damage to his left foot, he also had other concerns about his playing future. While he should be right for the season opener, he just hopes he'll be wearing Newcastle colours.
I've been assured of a contract, but I haven't signed it as yet. But I'd just like to see us all get our names on contract again next year.
Despite next season starting in early February, Robbie O isn't the only player who has yet to put pen to paper. While most have agreed to terms, many are yet to sign. But Ian Burnett says that's normal.
But all the players have got letters of intent, and we're just waiting to finalise those contracts based on some legal requirements for next year with the club agreement and so on. So everything's in order as far as we're concerned.
David McElwain, NBN News.
The Newcastle Athletics track has seen better days, but better still may lie ahead. Council has come up with $80,000 for the track to get a new synthetic surface.
There's no reason why a city the size of Newcastle should not have an up-to-standard athletics facility, and that's what we're going to have.
The funds mean the resurfacing is now $30,000 away, but closer than ever, seeing as the Newcastle Hunter Athletics Association has already been organising a fundraising auction for tomorrow night at Wallsend RSL. There's autographed memorabilia from Greg Norman, Melinda Gainsford and Emma George up for grabs, among others.
Well, the top item as far as local interest is concerned would be a picture of Paul Harrigan from 1999, as well as his State of Origin tracksuit, which he's allowed us to auction off on his behalf.
Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
What should be considered the happiest occasion in the life of a family can sometimes result in bouts of depression. It's called postnatal depression, and it affects 1 in 10 women. These alarming numbers has prompted the establishment of a phone counselling service to help sufferers.
We want to give them some practical tips to maybe deal with some of their anxiety and some of the practical help that they need to get through this.
The group is run by volunteers and aims to give support for those suffering from depression. And in Glendale, a new store opened today providing for the needs of the newborns.
We've got a maternal child health centre. We've got qualified staff who are experts in their areas who can provide all the information.
This is the first of its kind in Newcastle and has already received the thumbs up from its target clientele.
There's been a huge gap in the market to date. No one has catered to parents and children the way we've been able to cater to them.
The store opens on Sunday for public trading. Adam Harper, NBN News.
With family in the Hunter and a strong belief in the Knights' playing potential, it's little wonder David Fairley has looked to Newcastle after missing out on the Manly North squad.
Spoke to Warren Ryan and had a good look around Newcastle and just glad to be going there. You know.
But according to the Knights, any deal isn't done just yet. Ian Burnett also stresses that pursuing players and payment of players are two separate issues.
The signing of players for next year is related to next year's budget. Obviously, the relationship to the current Optus money relates to the 1999 contracts, so they're independent of each other.
The Knights have also spoken with former Bear Brett Dallas. Meanwhile, the Newcastle Wildfires Board held a public meeting last night to discuss the club's situation in light of being dumped from the state rugby competition in 2001. The group vowed to fight on, setting up a Save the Wildfires committee, which in turn will look at fundraising, lobbying support and player matters. The Wildfires need $120,000 to return next season, but President Morgan Jones says they'll be back.
And I think whatever happens, the Wildfires have got to compete. They've got to represent at a competitive level to hold Newcastle up high and do Newcastle proud.
Fittings or fixtures, everything to do with steel fabrication was auctioned today, from gantries to tools and even brooms.
It's just move it out, you've hit the nail on the head, there's no reserve, highest bidder gets it.
And the value is in the eye of the beholder.
Ought to be what you call a bargain, a bargain's a bargain if you can use it.
Work safety signs were the first to go at $50 a piece, but there were plenty of big ticket items, this hydraulic guillotine causing a few nervous moments. The reason for the interest varied.
This is the end of an era, and because you had to have a look at the end of an era. I'm nearly out of the workforce myself, and I'd just like to have a look and see what it was about.
With one buyer coming from Untitled, hoping to do more business with BHP's Port Kembla plant.
Well, we supply a lot of stuff to BHP, and I make hard-faced plating, stuff like that, and they buy our plating, and we need some of their gear that they've got up here, so it might be a bargain here, I don't know.
500 lots sold today raised $700,000 for BHP. The auction will continue until Thursday afternoon.
Newcastle's harness racing fraternity was on hand for today's draw. Lord Mayor John Tate pulling the numbers from beer cans for the vital barrier positions. An Australia-wide field has been confirmed for Saturday night's 10th annual race that offers big money.
35,000 goes to the winner, and the winner, I'm sure, will force their way into the Miracle Mile at Harold Park, which is run in 2 weeks' time, and that's a $300,000 race.
Western Australian horse Shattered Class drew the sought-after inside barrier and comes to Newcastle with 13 consecutive wins to his credit. Local horse Gancia Guy drew barrier 2 after finishing second to Our Sir Vancelot in last year's race. Among the other favourites, King Star and Slug of Gin. Gancia Guy was today named Horse of the Year. His trainer and driver Mark Callaghan happy with the draw.
Oh, very happy with barrier 2. This race has shown over the years that you've got to be up in amongst the first few to win the race.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. Nine ball is the fastest growing offshoot of the traditional game of pool.
It's played with 9 balls instead of the 16 balls like pool, and you take them in number. You can get the 9 at any time through the game, which makes it a quick game.
Carol Waters and Angie Charlton have just returned from the Australian Ladies 9-Ball Championship in Sydney. Carol finished second, while Angie, who's the daughter-in-law of snooker legend Eddie Charlton, finished third.
Competition was very tough, yes. It got down to the last best 14 ladies in the country.
Both players have ambitions of competing in this year's world titles, but lack the funds to get there.
I'd love to go to the World Championships. It's held in Alicante in Spain. It's in December, starting on the 6th to the 11th. But unfortunately, our sponsor's pulling out. We need about 5,500 for both of us to go.
Heavily armed police descended on the school after learning a female student had been threatened.
Information was given to police that a person had made threats against people at the school here and intended to attend the school today and carry out those threats.
Dressed in bulletproof vests, 25 police along with sniffer dogs searched the school grounds and nearby bushland, fearing an 18-year-old man may be hiding nearby. Students were kept in classrooms while others walked into school oblivious to the incident. Year 12 students sat for their HSC Modern History exam with no knowledge of the attention outside.
Not only has nobody been injured or nobody affected in any way, but we were able to maintain our lessons on the whole, and the HSC examination proceeded as normal.
The man at the centre of today's hunt handed himself into Newcastle police 4 hours after the drama began. He was questioned at length by detectives. The 18-year-old man was released this afternoon pending further police inquiries. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Between 8 and 10 this morning, all non-life-threatening cases were turned away from John Hunter Hospital's emergency ward. Ambulance drivers were told to redirect patients to Belmont Hospital. The move immediately sparked concerns the hospital's resources were being overloaded, the crisis likened to that of Sydney's public hospital system. Earlier this week, some of Australia's most senior medical specialists were convinced a reduction in funding to public hospitals was seriously affecting their ability to deliver care. But management at John Hunter Hospital today issued a statement claiming that simply wasn't the case. During the hospital's busy time today, apparently no patients were refused access or treatment in the emergency ward. The hospital also moved to reassure the public that the measures employed this morning are not common practice. Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
When water burst from a disused mine killing 4 men, it left a legacy of questions. Now, with criminal charges being laid, at least someone will be called to answer.
The day 3 years ago that I went to Gretley Colliery and I knew what had happened, it was always going to come to this and then go down the track further.
The Attorney-General has said the Newcastle Wallsend Coal Company and individuals will be charged in relation to the accident under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. But the Mine Workers Union isn't satisfied. It says the Attorney-General's shortlist allows one party to escape its responsibility. Mark Kaiser, Edward Badderham, Damon Murray and John Hunter all lost their lives in the Gretley mine shaft on November 14, 1996. Mark's father is confident the department will have a case to answer through one of its top managers.
And someone only had to read page 183 of the history of the Gretley Colliery, this accident wouldn't have happened.
While the union is hoping everything is resolved quickly, the strain on the victims' families continues.
It was a union that carried this. We could not have done it. And all those people who were thinking about getting out of unions, gee, I'm pleased my boy was in this union. Without that, we would have been up the creek.
They were anything but the best conditions for the top sailboarders to show their skills in today, but over the weekend the 40-strong field will race up to 10 heats, all fighting for class victory. More encouraging than the breeze too was the large number of younger competitors, showing the sport is set for a big future.
We're starting to generate a bit of interest now. We've got some more sort of interested at our club level, so hopefully in the next year or two they'll join in the state fleets and Australian fleets as well.
Fortunately, some boards don't need sails, and 250 surfers were far from standing still at Avoca Beach on the Central Coast. The annual Careflight Classic has attracted surfers from Sydney to the mid-north coast for 2 days of competition and festivities to raise money for the Careflight helicopter and use suicide prevention.
We're up around 10,000 so far this year, so we raised 15,000 in 3 years, so we're well above our target this year.
Could cause him some trouble here. There's 7. This is an amazing performance. Uh-oh. Wow. The car Roberts, the right front wheel's about to fall off. Whoa! He got hit by a 44. Whoa! Oh, someone got the Terminator.
"15-year-old Michael Watson and 16-year-old Brendan Bradshaw may not have been playing soccer for very long, but they've already made national selection.
It's going to be a lifetime experience. Going to give me a lot of experience going over there.
Watson will be playing in Paraguay for 16 days and says he's looking forward to the experience. But having never played top-level indoor soccer before, he's unsure of what to expect.
I don't know what they got over there. Never heard of it before.
And fellow soccer player Brendan Bradshaw will be jetting off to Canada for the 16s division as their goalkeeper. Both players will be tested by the indoor challenge, with the profile of the sport on the rise, along with that of outdoor soccer.
Indoors a lot faster game, shorter field, smaller goals, it's kick-ins instead of throw-ins. Goalkeeper can't really kick the ball much. Goalkeeper can't do much actually. And, it's just a harder game. It's a lot faster.
Adam Harper, NBN News. Although not a new sport itself, the high-flying competition of trampolining is new to the Olympic Games. And the state's best have spent the last 2 days trying to launch themselves on a track to the Olympics, competing for the title of New South Wales champion. The Central Coast's new youth centre allowing the trampoliners a sporting chance.
The complex itself is looking to be the centre of excellence for trampoline sports in New South Wales and indeed throughout Australia.
New South Wales' own 2 Olympic representatives will be training at the complex under the watchful eye of the Olympic coach Nikolai Zurev.
swooping magpies are a legacy of spring, and it seems some will go to any lengths to stop them. 28 birds have so far been found dead in Redhead, evidence showing they've been deliberately poisoned.
I think it's ridiculous, actually, because, I mean, you don't know how a little kid might pick up a bait as well. You just don't know.
The birds were found within a 100-metre radius of Burns Street.
I ended up finding or taking 28 birds that were both killed and still just alive that had, some form of poisoning, and we took them through to the vet for autopsy.
An autopsy showed the birds died after eating rat bait. The poison caused them to bleed internally, and it slowly killed them. Concern is growing not only for the magpies, which are a protected bird, but for the welfare of other animals in the area.
Our main concern is that we're dog owners and we've got dogs, but they're in the yard all the time. But we've also, 2 doors down from here, we've got a family of possums.
The National Parks and Wildlife is still searching for the culprit, who could be fined up to $3,000 or face a 6-year jail sentence. Vanessa Spark, NBN News. It was this facade that captured Gail Thompson's imagination as a little girl. So much so, in fact, that 2 years ago she refused to let the decaying building become a distant memory. Last night, the revamped Longworth Institute and former Air Force Club, refurbished with the help of a heritage grant, was opened by Deputy Premier Andrew Refshorgi. The mixed-use development is available to tenants for use as a cafe and coffee bar with an adjoining public gallery. Meantime, a little further up the road, the Great Northern Hotel will also open its doors to the public tonight as an Irish pub. But Newcastle Councillor Margaret Henry says the developer will do so in breach of several conditions, one of which was due before the Heritage Council this week.
But in advance of that happening, the developer has gone ahead to open the building.
Newcastle and the Heritage Council have both been refused access to the building and are continuing to seek legal advice over the matter.
If Council just ignores what's been done in this case, it means that Council's reputation as a development consent authority is undermined, and it sets a precedent for other developers.
Helen Kapalos, NBN News.